What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining the Realty One Stop YouTube channel. And today we are going to cover a video topic that is near and dear to my heart about 5 tips on hiring great contractors in 2022. So if you have tried to hire a general contractor to do some renovation works for your home or a rental property, or maybe even just some handyman type of task around the house, you may have noticed in the past couple years it's been very difficult to find good contractors who want to show up and work hard and give you an honest, fair price and actually do the work that they've agreed to do. I have been hiring and firing and dealing with contractors for the last 6 years on a regular basis. I own and operate a general contracting company here in Cincinnati, Ohio. If you've been watching my videos, you may already know that. But obviously for me, general contracting is a big part of my world as a real estate investor. I do a lot of renovation work on my own rental properties, flip properties, and we do a lot of renovation work on client properties. So a big part of my life has been dedicated to dealing with general contractors, subcontractors, and every type of renovation you can imagine. So I want to give some advice for those of you following along here on 5 tips on how to find the best contractors in 2022. So let's get into it. Number 1, you need to decide what type of contractor you need for your property. Believe it or not, there's actually a ton of types of contractors out there. There's a huge spectrum of contractors and subcontractors and different things that they do. Okay, so let's start at the kind of base level here. There are just general laborers who may work for themselves or for another company, and they're going to do very basic labor tasks like demo, tearing down plaster, tearing off drywall, tearing out cabinets, maybe carrying, heavy rocks in your yard from one side of the yard to the other. Basically just very general, unskilled tasks that you probably don't want to do yourself, that are either hard or very labor intensive, that you may want to pay somebody. Obviously, this should be a relatively inexpensive task per hour. Especially if it's, maybe just a group of people who work for themselves and they're not working as part of a large company. There's going to be less overhead. So that's kind of your base level, right? Do you just need a general laborer? And these are the things you need to decide based on the task at hand for your project. Kind of the next level up is a handyman, okay? Maybe you have a leaky faucet. Maybe you need to change out a couple doorknobs. Maybe you need to rescreen a section of porch or something. Paint a room or paint a door, something very, kind of minor, like a half a day's job or a day's worth of work, right? These are very common. There's a lot of ladies and guys out there working for themselves as handy men or women, and they're typically going to be on the lower end of cost, and they may be a good fit for very minor, projects in your home. So for me, the next step up, and this is kind of where I would consider my company, you have your mid-level remodelers, right? These are your average level of finish for homes or maybe even apartment buildings. We do kitchens, bathrooms, basement finishing, but they focus mainly on cosmetic renovations. My company in particular, we have a broader range where we do foundation work, and we'll do specialty work for plumbing and electric. We have subcontractors that we bring into projects. So but as far as when I call it a mid-level remodeler, I mean level finish, right? You're not talking, grand staircases and, thousands of dollars on crown molding in every room, which would be more of a luxury finish. So these are your just general home remodelers that, probably what you most commonly think of when you think of calling a contracting company, okay? Now, maybe you just need, mid-range specialty work done. And what I mean by that is maybe you just need a fence put in or a deck put in, or you just need, your home painted inside or out, or a few rooms painted. So these are where you may find specialty trades who focus just on those tasks, okay? Going back to what I just said, using my company as an example, we do all of those things. We do decks, we do fences, we do paint whole homes inside and out. We have subcontractors who do some of that work for my company, and then we have employees who do some of that work for my company. Now, what's important to remember when you're making your decision on your project is if all you need is specialty work done, You may be better off just calling a company that does those tasks. Here's why. If I painted homes, and let's say I'm an interior painter and I paint homes all day long, every day of the week, 365 days a year, one, I'm going to be very efficient, right? That's all I do. I paint all day long. I can usually get better prices on material because that's the only materials I buy, right? I usually have really good pricing on material that you may benefit from if you're having your contractor pay for your material. I'm going to be really efficient. I'm going to be fast. I should be very, professional. And if all I'm doing is painting houses, as an example, then I probably am not going to be booked out on, a large basement remodeling because all I'm doing is painting, right? I'm usually in and out of projects quicker. So theoretically, they would have more availability for your particular type of project. Something to consider. Now, I'm not saying that cost-wise they may be cheaper. That's not necessarily the case, because anyone, as a general rule, anyone who's good at what they do is going to, come with a certain level of cost there. But understand, if you have a very specialty type of job, a specialty contractor may be your best option. Okay. Now, to get in kind of the next level of specialty trade, you have your licensed trades. I'm going to speak strictly on Ohio licensing law here because that's where we work and operate. But in Ohio, you have HVAC licensed contractors, electrical licensed contractors, and plumbing licensed contractors. Okay. That's it. Every other type of contracting you can imagine is an unlicensed trade. That's just the way Ohio works. Now, I know in other states, there are general contracting license, and there may be even other specialty trade license, okay? Here in Ohio, we only have the three, and my company, the way we do it is if we have specific license work that has to be done, we will bring in subcontractors with those licenses to work alongside of us on particular projects. Okay. But let's just say you need an air conditioner redone or you need a new panel put in and you want to bring in a licensed tradesman or woman to do that work. Understand that if you want a licensed trades company or person, it's going to cost more than an unlicensed person. Now, I'm not saying that's not the right thing to do. I'm just saying to consider your work, your project, and what expectations you have and what's your budget, what do you want to pay. Okay, generally speaking, a licensed trade company or person is going to cost you quite a bit more than an unlicensed person. And you only need them in special circumstances for those three types of work I just mentioned. Keep that in mind, at least here in Ohio. Now, your next level is going to be those high-end remodelers, right? These are the companies that focus strictly on luxury remodels, okay? You're talking $1,000,000, multi-million-dollar homes. You're talking, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 kitchens. Of course, it's going to come with all the bells and whistles. These are theoretically going to be the best of the best in each trade, the best carpenters, the best plumbers, the best electricians, the best, granite people, whatever you can imagine that's going to be the most expensive. Certain customers in certain homes are going to expect that level of finish and are going to be paying the premium to get that type of work done in their home. So if that is not what you're looking for, then you may not want or need to spend that kind of money. Okay. And briefly, I want to cover builders. Okay. When you're considering building a home, okay, obviously as a real estate agent, this is something I deal with frequently as well on the agent side. When you're considering building a home, same situation applies. What type of home are you trying to build? Are you going to a volume builder? Are you going to go to a spec builder? Are you doing like an addition maybe on an existing home or foundation structure that you're adding to? Or is it going to be a brand new ground up construction? Again, you're going to have to pick your level finish, right? There's the volume kind of track home builders that are going to be that low to mid grade level of finish. And then you have your luxury home builders, your custom home builders that are going to give you a lot more options. But again, that price is going to be much higher per square foot on your new construction than it would be with like a volume builder. Okay. Again, you have to consider your situation and what you want to spend the money on. Okay. Now with number one covered, let's move to number two. Where are you going to find these people? Well, in my opinion, the single best resource to finding a great contractor in 2022 is to get a personal reference from someone you trust, right? If your friends and family and cousins and brothers and sisters and mom and dad are using this company and they're the best company in your area and they're giving you glowing reviews, then of course that's a high likelihood you will also, be satisfied with their work and level of finish. That's the best option if you can find that. If you can't find somebody that way through word of mouth of references, then check social media, go on Facebook, check the neighborhood groups. That's a way that my company has found a lot of clients, and vice versa. People have found us. Check their social media pages, check their websites if they have one. Any level of professional company is probably going to, at a minimum, have a business page. Okay, if there's nothing out there on the internet about them, and they don't have a website, and they don't, have a business phone number, and they don't have a social media presence, they're probably not a high level company. And again, not to say that they're a bad contractor, but it's going to be a lot harder to review them because there's nothing out there about them, right? So, it's more likely it's just a guy or girl working out of a truck doing their own thing. And again, maybe that's a good fit for your project, but just know it's going to be a lot harder to verify them. You can also find contractors who work for larger companies, but maybe on the weekends or nights and weekends they do side work, right? If you find a guy or girl that works for a flooring company and you need floors done, he may be willing to do that on his own on the side for a lower price than the company would charge you, right? Because he doesn't have the overhead that the company has. All right, and we're going to get into the details of that here in a minute. So look at the places where you can try to get the most information on these people. Again, I really like Facebook. I think Facebook gives you a great insight into who people are and companies are and the feedback on those companies, right? We all know that if somebody's really, really been screwed over or taken advantage of, they're going to go on Facebook and talk about it. So it's a great place to get information. Now, whenever you're considering contractors, okay, here's tip number 3. You have to decide what your expectations are, what you're willing to pay, because not all contractors are built the same, okay? Not all companies are built the same. The more experience they have, the larger the company is, the more employees they have, the more trades license they have, we just talked about. When they have workers' comp and liability insurance, when they have a big fleet of vehicles, when they have branding, when they have high-end websites and designers and all those things that go with building out a big remodeling company, all that stuff means you're going to pay more money for that level of service, right? That's just how it is. As my company has grown the last 5-6 years, my overhead has went up every single year. I bought software, I bought insurance, I bought, we have administrative assistants that help run our company. All those things add to the cost of doing business that you may not see on the job site, right? Obviously, common sense tells you that's our overhead. Most people understand what overhead is. And the more overhead a company has, the more you're going to pay for the same service. Now, what you're hopefully paying for is a higher level of service, a more professional company that's more reliable, more responsive, and hopefully does as good or better work than maybe an independent contractor would. Okay? But understand, again, back to tip number 1, you have to decide what is it you need. If you're just trying to get, your deck stained or something, you probably don't need a mid-level or high-level remodeling company, because they may do that work for you, but I guarantee you it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more than it would, to get Billy Bob down the street who knows how to roll paint, right? Again, decide what you need and what makes sense and what your expectations are. What you can't do is have top dollar expectations and a low dollar budget, right? It's not going to work. No one's going to be happy. Now, speaking of pricing, tip number 4, here's some tips on how to get the best prices from best contractors here in 2022, okay? First of all, you need to have the conversation with your contractor, and hopefully if they're an honest person, then they'll be transparent with pricing. When people ask me how I price my projects, I'm very transparent. I have nothing to hide. I tell them exactly how I operate my business, and they either choose to work with us or they don't. Okay? So, with that in mind, ask them how they do pricing. If they mark up materials that they are supplying, it may make sense for you to try to order as many materials as you can for your project, especially when it comes to cosmetic finishes, right? When you are picking out cabinets or doors or countertops or lights and fixtures, The more of that you can go out and pick out on your own and have on the job site ready to install, the less time the contractor has to spend designing those, picking them out, and making sure it's something that you're going to like. Therefore, most likely you're going to save money on that cost, and you're not going to pay any markups on materials, okay? Most remodelers mark up materials of various degrees for various reasons, depending on how they structure their pricing. And it's important to understand how they do it, and it's important to see where you might be able to save money. I can tell you as a contractor, a general contractor, when a customer has already picked out, 25 to 75% of the finish materials, that I don't have to go running around finding and picking out, ordering, especially in, right now with COVID delays and supply issues. I'm happy to not pay any or to get paid on any markup, because I'm not spending my time and energy finding these materials for people. Okay, so that's one way to save money. As a customer, you need to be very transparent as well. Okay, you need to be very specific and clear. This is what I want. Here's pictures of exactly what I expect. Here's a drawing of exactly what I expect. Be very specific. Don't say, well, I might want this, or I could do that, or I could do this. You need to plan ahead, have a very specific goal in mind when you start meeting with these contractors. And the most important thing is be very serious. I can't tell you, most contractors, especially if they've been in this business 10, 20, 30 years, their BS detectors are very, very good, okay? When you start hawing around about, well, we might, we talked about, I know within 30 seconds of talking to somebody if I'm wasting my time, okay? And I promise you, if a contractor thinks you're wasting their time, they're not going to deal with you. They're not going to waste their time. If they're worth their salt at all, they're not going to waste their time. And I'll get into why that's so prevalent today here in a minute. But just understand, if you're not serious, if you're just tire kicking, you're just floating ideas out there, maybe trying to get some whatever bids on things that you really have no intentions of actually doing, contractors are going to know that. Okay, so be serious, be knowledgeable. What I mean by that is, hopefully, if you're watching this video, you're trying to become more knowledgeable on these topics. But if you walk into a large renovation with no background knowledge of any sort of cost of construction or the process, it's going to be very difficult for you to know if you're getting a fair price, right? Now, you can always try to get multiple bids, and that's fine. But again, if you don't understand what you're looking at or what you're talking about, you're hoping that this company or this contractor is a very transparent, honest person, which I hope they are. But if they're not, it's easy for you to get taken advantage of if you have no baseline knowledge of how construction projects work, okay? Next, be a very loyal customer. I can tell you from personal experience, the customers that started working with me 5-6 years ago when I was brand new in this business are people that I still work with today, and those people get the best prices from my company because they've been there from the beginning. They wanted, they hired me when no one else had, and I was brand new. So they're very loyal customers. When they call me, I always pick up my phone. When they want me to come out and price a project for them, I always do. And I give them the best prices I can because they've been with me since the beginning. So now you have an opportunity to start building those relationships with your contractors where you can be a loyal customer for the next 5, 10, 25, 50 years, whatever that looks like. Okay, that's a way to get the best prices from most people. And this one's easy, but pay on time, right? Now, you should either have a verbal or written contract, invoice structure, something where especially on a larger project, how are we paying for this, right? What are we paying up front? What are we paying for materials? Are we doing, 2 draws, 4 draws, 10 draws? What does that look like? But the main thing is when the work is completed on those schedules as agreed upon, make sure you're paying on time every time. Because if a contractor has to chase you around for 2 weeks every time to get a check, then I guarantee you they're not going to want to work for you again if they even finish the job they're on now, right? So the worst thing you can do is be a bad customer, not pay, or pay slow, and I guarantee you your project's not going to go well. Another thing, just general knowledge to understand, as of right now, in the market we're in 2022, and it's been this way the last couple of years, especially during COVID, there is way more demand for construction than there are contractors, right? It's the same thing in the housing market. There's 10 customers for every one good contractor. So they are picking and choosing who they want to work with. It is, they are in the driver's seat in these transactions as of right now, okay? Understand, whether it hurts your feelings or not, they do not need you as a customer. I don't have a single customer that I work with that I need. Now, I'm not saying I don't like them. I'm not saying they're not a good person. I'm just saying that if I don't work with this person, I have 10 more people that are calling me right now that I'm telling I can't do work for. Okay? So understand, it's so important to be a good customer in this market if you want to have any success hiring and working with contractors. Okay? Because we just established they don't need you, you need to make sure they want you as a customer. Okay? It's very important. All right. Last one, tip number 5. These are some things, just general things to look out for, okay? And I can speak from experience on this one. I got burnt with my first contractor I ever hired as a new investor. Never pay for more than half of a project up front. I don't care how much it costs. I don't care if it's a $500 project or a $500,000 project. You never pay for more than half of a project up front, ever. I don't care if that's material, labor, what. You never pay for more than half up front. Okay, I can't stress that enough. Because as soon as you pay ahead of the work that is completed, they have no financial, logical reason to complete the work as agreed upon. There's no reason. They have no bearing, nothing that's pulling them to do that other than hopefully, they're a good person. Hopefully that they're a reputable business. But if they're not, and there's a lot of people out there who are not good people, you have now created a situation where you're in a position to get taken advantage of. Okay, like we spoke on before, ask them how they do pricing. It should be pretty straightforward. It's not usually a very complicated system, and most reputable companies or contractors should be willing to share how they price projects, okay? It should not be like some hidden secret, okay? Another thing to do as a customer, ask the contractor or the company up front on your first couple conversations, hey, how can I help you? How can I make this project go smoothly? How can I be a great customer for you? I want you to want to work with me. What can I do to help? And be genuine and listen to them. Do what they say within reason, right? Again, we talked about overhead a little bit, but I want you to really think about all the hidden costs that go into construction. For example, okay, I'm going to speak specifically on my business and how we operate, okay? I pay for liability insurance for all of my contractors, subcontractors. I pay for all their uniforms. I pay for all of our company branding. I pay for our company vehicles that we own. I also pay for gas for a lot of my employees. Okay, I either give them it's part of their benefit package. I give them as a stipend, or they pay for gas with our company credit cards. Okay, there's a lot of hidden costs that go into these projects that you may not see on site, right? Every time we have a material that doesn't work or is bad, we went to the store and they just gave us a defective material. That's another hour or 2 hours that we have to go back and get the right material to put into a project. These things add up significant cost, okay? So if you're looking at an invoice and you just can't understand, why would this take so much time? Why is this so expensive? Again, I'm not saying that they're giving you a fair price, but what I'm saying is most customers do not understand. There are thousands of dollars in hidden costs on almost every sizable project that we look at, okay? So just keep that in mind. And if you have specific questions, feel free to leave me a comment. I'm happy to address them directly. Another thing that's very important to do as a customer, plan ahead, okay? I can't tell you how many times somebody has called me and said, hey, we want to get, so-and-so done to our basement or our backyard or whatever. And they call me, March 1st and they want it done by March, 30th. The reality of that is impossible, okay? If any company or contractor is worth working with, they are very busy, okay? If you call somebody and they say, oh yeah, I'll start that job Monday, you need to run, because I guarantee you that means they have no business, or they're lying and they're creating false expectations. And you need to find somebody who is more reliable. I can guarantee you that that's a red flag. So plan ahead. Make sure you know what you want done on your projects. Be very specific, or at least have, most of the details figured out before you start making calls. make sure you get very specific details verbally and in writing. You don't necessarily have to do some big, formal construction contract. We don't really do a lot of that. It's very case by case basis, but at a minimum, have your invoices written out in writing. So if something goes wrong, which, inevitably things will, you can look at that and say, oh no, okay, yeah, see, we did agree to do the trim on the bathroom for this price. You want something to reference, right? First of all, you're not going to remember everything you say. The contractor's not going to remember everything they say. So when you can, especially on mid to large size projects, get specifics in writing so you can reference them later. Okay, and just don't waste your time or the contractor's time. Right? We just talked about this. If you're not serious about getting the work done, don't call 10 contractors out to give you prices, because you're wasting everyone's time. And if you waste their time, they're not going to want to deal with you later. Okay, so be genuine, be very serious. If you're trying to get, I understand, you want to get your prices together. I understand there's planning that has to go into these projects. I'm not saying not to get bids. What I'm saying is, if you're getting bids, you need to be realistic about cost, and you need to be genuine about wanting to get that work done. Okay, in summary, there is a lot of good contractors out there, so don't be discouraged. I know I've focused on a lot of the negative things you need to look out for, but there are a lot of good contractors out there. You just need to know how and where to look for them. Hopefully this video has helped you with that. Again, be a great customer. If you want to keep the best contractors working for you, be a great customer. Do the things I mentioned in this video. Be loyal, be patient, be flexible, be understanding. Guys, in the time of COVID we're in right now, there's so many things as a contractor out of our control. Okay? Employees, supply chain issues. I can't tell you how many vendors have given me deadlines on materials that they just don't meet. And of course they have every excuse in the book, and it makes the contractor look bad. But understand that we are in a volatile time in the market. There's so many things out of our control. If you factor in permits and inspectors and you have those on your project, that's a whole nother can of worms that the contractor has very little control over the situation. So try to be patient. Understand most contractors are genuine, good people that want to get your project done on time, and they want to get it done for the best price they can, and they want to build a relationship to keep you coming back as a customer. And as a customer, hopefully you can build that relationship to have a go-to contractor for whatever type of work you need. Again, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have specific questions, please leave me a comment. I'm happy to make a direct video response to your questions. If you have questions about any other related topics, real estate, agent business, scaling your businesses, financial freedom, investing, any of that stuff, please feel free to leave me a comment. I'm happy to reach out and have those conversations. Thank you so much for watching the Realty One Stop YouTube channel. Can't wait to see you guys next time.